Mother changed the locks while I was out. Tries to marry me off the next day. I'm 20 female. I went out on a Friday, a few hours with some friends. Just some shopping and catching up. I haven't seen some of them for the last 25 years due to COVID, when we used to hang out almost every week. And I'm leaving the country in a few weeks, so we took this opportunity to catch up and for a farewell party. I was out from late afternoon to about 9 or 10 p.m. When I got home, I took out my keys to unlock the gate, but it won't fit. I tried to turn the key around, yes, like a USB, thinking it might fit the other way, but still could not fit. I called my mother and she didn't pick up. Called my grandmother who lives with me, but she was out with her friends as well and won't be home anytime soon. At this point, I was angry. My mother already burnt a couple of my work pants the day before because I refused to wear a dress for work. My line of work requires me to get to move around a lot, so a dress or office skirt was not suited for my environment. I shook the gate, but no one was home. So I picked the lock. I opened the metal gate after a few tries. Luckily, the wooden door behind was not locked. The neighbors did call the police, of course, and I had to show them that I actually lived there, and that was my legal address. I took some essentials and went to stay at my friend's house for the night, because I couldn't lock the door back, and I was kind of afraid to be in the house without a locked door. The next day, my grandmother and I were invited to go to a pre-wedding event. It was kind of a meeting for the elders, an engaging party/ceremony at a cafe. My mother only sent me this address and time for it. It was perfectly normal for my grandmother to be invited to things like these via my mother. My grandmother doesn't know how to use a phone other than basic functions like calling. We showed up on time to the cafe and were escorted to a booth-type seat at the corner of the cafe. The booth already had a lady, mid-40s, 50s, and a guy. I assumed she was the mother and the guy was her son. The moment we sat down, the lady took out a calendar and notepad, filled with a list of flower arrangements, color schemes, menus, dresses, and hairstyles, etc. She introduced her son, who is 28 by the way, told me what he does for a living, what he studies, and where. She thanked me for agreeing to marry him. I looked at her, then to her son, then to the wedding planners and notes. Then it finally did register that this was for my wedding. My grandmother was pissed, to say the least. I apologized to the lady and said there must be some kind of misunderstanding between us because I came to attend someone's engagement party, not plan my own. And I added I was only 20 this year. My grandmother then rudely asked why she thought I would be marrying her son. The lady replied that her mother contacted me and said her daughter was looking for a partner and husband to settle down so me, could move out. My grandmother calmly said to the lady that she had been lied to and I was not going to be getting married anytime soon. She said her son seems nice and hopes he finds someone who likes it to marry him in the future, but it was not going to be me. We got up and left. When we got home, I found my things stuffed into a black plastic bag beside the door. My grandmother opened up the door and told me to bring my stuff in. The moment I stepped through the door, my mother yelled that she put so much effort into finding a guy who would take a girl like me to marry, and that I should just be grateful she didn't marry me off to an older dude, and I should be happy that she found someone my age. She then told me I embarrassed her because the mother called her and told her what she did was not okay, which it is not, by the way, and to not do it again without asking or even informing me properly. My grandmother started to shout at my mother in Cantonese, which resulted in them being in a heated argument for almost 30 minutes, and my grandmother kicked out my mother, which of course she moaned and groaned and cried about before leaving. TLDR, my mother changed the locks to my house while I was out and sent me to plan my own wedding under the guise of it being my grandmother's friend's wedding, and then proceeds to kick me out of the house, but ends up being kicked out of the house herself. Don't want to discipline your child? Fine. Both of you can stay home while we go have fun. This one's a sad story all around, but it primarily revolves around two kids with very sad stories. Worth noting, the people who I was celebrating this Labor Day with have a very it takes a village approach to child minding. An adult is left in charge of a little one, and if the little one and the adult part ways, the adult makes sure a different adult has charge of the kid. Leads to some very interesting situations where a kid is missing in action, but we've never actually lost track of one, and have 100% safety rate. Well, aside from trips and falls and scrapes, but that's just the price of doing business when you're little. The first kid is Max. He's 5 and was put in sole custody of his dad after his mom was arrested. He wears a diaper still due to the trauma he suffered, and his dad feels like he failed him and as a result seems to be incapable of disciplining the kid. It's been 2.5 years now, and people watch Max like a hawk because he can't be trusted near animals or with other people's things. When caught, he turns on the waterworks and his dad doesn't do anything. The second kid is Alicia. She's 4 and was adopted by a pair of my friends. She's got a speech impediment that her bio parents tried to solve by beating it out of her. When we first met her, everyone was given firm instructions. No using the R word in her presence. Very good rule. At all. I agree with that rule. That could definitely harm a kid's self-esteem, along with other things. W rule, honestly. Third rule, second rule, if she feels comfortable enough to speak to you, you listen. Period. Third rule, no surprise hugs, no fist bumps, no high fives. If she's having a good day, low fives are allowed. If she gets triggered, she just shuts down, doesn't cry, doesn't do anything, doesn't respond to outside stimuli, she just goes away, and it is the saddest thing to see. Sweetest little kid, though. Her smile lights up the whole room when it comes out. Really sounds like me when I was a kid. It's kind of sad. Anyway, continuing the story. On to the events. Alicia has just hit her Y phase a few years late for obvious reasons, and she'd asked me why she gets shocked by doorknobs while running around in her stocking feet. I happen to rather enjoy these questions, and I was in the middle of a talk with her about why that is. She was speaking when Max and his dad arrived. I was down on my haunches and listening very closely when Max runs up and just shoves Alicia to the ground and says, "Shut up, Woodard. Uncle OP, my iPad is broken. Can you fix it?" Brandishing a tablet at me. I won't lie to you and say it wasn't a struggle to keep my voice even, but I knew yelling would only make things worse for Alicia. "Excuse me, I'm not fixing a thing until you apologize to Alicia and wait your turn." "But Uncle OP, my tablet." "Apologize and wait your turn." "No!" "Well, then stop calling me uncle and find someone else to fix it. Bullies don't get my help, and they certainly don't get to call me uncle." Poor Alicia was just laying where she fell, not even crying. Hadn't sat up, just looked like a robot that had run out of batteries. I scooped her up and told Max, "You stay right here while I find Alicia's mom. This conversation isn't over." He just starts screaming, "No Bowie, no Bowie." No bully, to translate. I snuck inside the house with Alicia, where it was quieter for a moment, and said, "Alicia, I know you're very scared right now, but I need to tell you a secret. Can you nod if you can hear me right now? This is very important." I get the tiniest little nod and told her, "Max has the same exact problem talking that you do, and I understand you much better. Can't tell anyone I told you that, though, okay? Bless her little heart that she actually whispered, Really? Of course. Why would I lie to you? A tiny shake of the head, and I tracked down her mom outside and gave her the Cliff Note versions of what went down. Mom looked like she wanted to rend Max limb from limb, but I told her the plan. She was appeased. They went someplace quiet so Alicia could come out of her shell, and I went back to where I had left Max. Max was being held by his dad, and his dad was asking Max what happened to his tablets, and he was just repeating, No, Bowie! Apparently, after I had left Max, he smashed his tablet on the ground, and his dad had no idea what happened. I raised my voice a little so people would pay attention, and asked Max to repeat what he said to Alicia. He shook his head and started crying, still shouting, No, Bowie! And sobbing hysterically. When I relayed the exact events that happened, his dad had the grace to look ashamed. Come on, OP, you know what he went through. Can't we cut him a break? He doesn't know any better. This is the canned response. Anytime Max is caught doing something like kicking a dog or stealing a toy or a phone to play with, I, personally, was done. Further discussion ensued that I won't bother relaying, but Max's dad refused to do anything to actually discipline his child. Just like every other time Max acts out. But this time we were done. This is so far across the line from acceptable, it just boggles the imagination. We were planning on doing campfire s'mores after dinner, but I called an audible. New plan is putt-putt golf and then ice cream, and whoever does the best at putt-putt gets the biggest, bestest ice cream the place has. Every single adult agreed Max and Max's dad shouldn't come with. They got to stay home and think about what they had done. Miraculously, her recorded scores for putt-putt were 18 holes in ones. And listening to her laugh while she tried to contend with an ice cream was very nearly as big as when she made everyone's night. Max and his dad were gone by the time we got back. I really hope this dad gets his act together. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, it helps the channel a lot. See you next time.